the games and the quality of the matches you got, Warcraft 3 ended up being an extremely popular game, even against other games that, might have been just as because we kind of put random teams in just as a way, for people. We actually didn't think it'd be that popular, but it ended up being far and away the most popular way for people to play the game. And what we kind of took away from that is that if you're going to lose, you might as well lose with a teammate that you can blame. So we also kind of introduced the poor man's version of the achievement system, which was the icon system for character avatars, where, once you kind of win a certain amount of games as the orc, or you win a certain amount of games as a human, then you would actually be able to progress your icon and be able to display that as kind of like your 2D avatar on the service. And we obviously had a very large mod community, and that's something that we've learned a lot from, and I'm going to talk to a little bit later in the presentation. So there were also some things that we felt like we didn't do as well. We felt like the chat system was kind of disorganized. It was kind of hard to get into the chat channels that you wanted to. It was hard to communicate with multiple friends at once. And we also thought that it was very disconnected from the single-player experience. If you're in the single player, you weren't on Battle.net at all. The only time you're on Battle.net was when you're playing against other players. And new players didn't always do so well. This was kind of what we felt was the standard way that new players got introduced to multiplayer gaming on Battle.net. So that was something that we felt like we could improve on. And the ladder system really only served the best players. If you have like a community of 10,000 plus players that are all playing multiplayer, the amount of people that cared about the ladder are maybe 100 of those. And everyone else, like how satisfying is it to be number 5,329 in the ladder? So we really didn't feel like the ladder system was as successful as it could have been. And we had this problem with custom games, where if you wanted to play something other than this little game called Defense of the Ancients, you might have had a hard time doing that. And even if you did want to play Defense of the Ancients and you didn't have the map downloaded, you probably got booted about 20 times in a row before you successfully got into a game. All right, so what we decided to do was kind of, break up Starcraft 2 Battle.net into three kind of major areas. The always connected experience, this concept of competitive arena for everybody, and trying to connect the Blizzard community together. So I'm going to talk about each of those in succession. So the first one I'm going to talk about is the always connected, and for a much closer integration than we've ever done previously with any of the Battle.net games. I kind of talked about how we, were the first matchmaking service that actually delved into the game, but it still ended up being a little bit orphaned within the game itself, and we feel like we can do a much better job now. So another thing that we want to do is this concept of Battle.net accounts. And, if you remember back to Warcraft 3 or Diablo 2 or any of those games, each of those games had their own account structure. So we really didn't know who you were, and it really made it a hard time for you to have persistent characters, and we always also had to do things like, I don't know if you remember like during Diablo 2, but you only got to keep your characters online if you had logged in within the last 3 months. So if you came back to the game like a year later, you lost all your characters, and a lot of that had to do with the account system. So with this new Battle.net account system, which is tied into your email, we'll never have to do that again. So another thing we want to be able to do is we want to make sure that you're always connected to news, new content, and friends. Again, that's something that we didn't really feel like Battle.net's previously done well, and it's something we've learned a lot from World of Warcraft with community site, with the launcher, and some of the system announcements and things we can do now.